Hey everybody, Jace Boyer, now known as Benny the Vulture Official here, and here I'm going to read you Donald and Douglas's whole story part of the prologue of the whole prologue of Thomas and the Magic Railroad. So here it is. Donald, Part 1, The Twins and the Whisperer. Night 1. Donald's Eerie Encounter. It was late evening, and a damp chill had settled over the tracks. Donald, the black engine with the number 9, was hauling a train of empty goods wagons. A thin, swirling mist made the distant signal lights fuzzy, and the only sounds were his own steady chuffing. Then he heard it. It was a high, sweet whistle, unlike any sound on Sodor, faint but clear echoing from somewhere far beyond the tracks, carried on the sea mist itself. It was the sound of Lady's whistle, a beautiful silvery whisper of magic. Donald listened intently, but the sound vanished quickly. His driver dismissed it as the wind, but Donald knew he had heard something real and strange. The morning of Part 2. The morning of doubt. The next morning at the sheds, Donald was quick to tell his brother Douglas, "I'm tellin' ye, it was a whistle, a wee thin sound like a spirit," Donald insisted. Douglas, getting his buffers polished by his driver, scoffed. "Och, Donald, yer tiresomeness is contagious. Ye were tired, brother. Ye probably just imagined the noise, or maybe it was a strange bird. There are nae ghosts on Sodor." Douglas dismissed the tale, though he paid closer attention that night. Part 3. Night 2. Douglas hears the warning. That night, it was Douglas's turn to take the evening goods. He was deep in the dark, open country when the mist grew thickest. Suddenly, high above the noise of his engine, the same ethereal whistle, a tiny silvery echo, floated out of the darkness. It was undeniably real, and Douglas felt a sudden chill, a sense of something ancient and mysterious passing by just out of sight. He knew now. Donald hadn't been imagining things at all. Something magical and unknown was moving on Sodor. Part 4. The Morning of Truth. The next morning, Douglas looked utterly serious, surprising the other engines. "I was wrong, Gordon, and Donald was right," he announced. "There is a whistle on this railway, a strange, sweet sound I've never heard before. It feels ancient. It feels like a warning, a silent, respectful understanding passed between the two twins." Part 5. The Accident. That early evening, the workload was heavy and the twins were sent out together on the same line. Donald took a long train of mixed goods, and Douglas followed closely behind. The fog was now thick and soup-like. As they passed the shadowy woods, they both heard the same tiny, beautiful, silvery whistle, the magic whisper, and were instantly distracted. It was then that the troublesome trucks behind Donald, sensing a slight slackening in pace, began their mischief. On, faster, faster," they chanted, surging forward. The violence of their push caused Donald's driver to misread a critical yellow signal in the swirling fog, and he tried to regain control. The trucks began to push and bang, causing Donald's wheels to slip. Douglas, still focused on the eerie sound and rushing into the dark mist, saw the red tail lights of Donald's stalled train loom directly ahead. He whistled a warning, but it was too late. There was a terrific screech and a sound like thunder as the two trains collided. The magical silvery whistle was instantly silenced, replaced by the dreadful sound of wreckage. The disaster ensured that Donald and Douglas would be hauled away for a few weeks of major repairs, absent from the magical events to come. And I think, and here's something of the early stuff put in on Gemini. The whisper, the warning, and the crash. The morning of truth. The next morning, the engines gathered at the sheds. Douglas looked utterly serious, and the other engines noticed immediately. "Well, Douglas," Gordon scoffed, "did your tiresome brother's ghost visit you last night?" Douglas glared, then took a deep, steadying breath. "I was wrong, Gordon, and Donald was right. It was nae a bird, and it was nae the wind. There was a whistle on this railway, a strange, sweet sound I've never heard before. It feels ancient. It feels like a warning." The engines fell silent. Even James looked unsettled. If the skeptical Douglas believed it, something truly unusual was happening on Sodor. Donald merely looked at his brother, a knowing respect passing between them. And here's some more early stuff. The Prologue, The Whisper in the Fog. It was late evening, and a damp chill had settled on Sodor. Most of the smaller engines were already tucked away in their sheds, but the main line was still busy. Donald, the black engine with the number 9, was puffing steadily toward Tidmouth, hauling a string of empty goods wagons. The only sounds were the rattle of his couplings and the low, rhythmic chuffing of his own pistons. A thin, swirling mist had begun to curl around the tracks, making the distant signal lights appear fuzzy. Donald sighed contentedly. He liked the quiet reliability of his night runs. Then he heard it. It wasn't the deep, familiar blast of Gordon, nor the hurried hoot of Percy. It was a high, sweet sound, like a tiny bell ringing on the wind, a whistle, faint but clear, echoing from somewhere far beyond the fields, seemingly carried on the sea mist itself. It was unlike any whistle Donald had ever heard. He listened intently, holding his breath, but the sound vanished as quickly as it came. "Did ye hear that?" Donald murmured to his driver. "Hear what, lad?" "Just the wind in the wires." "Just the wind in the wires," his driver replied, rubbing his eyes. Donald disagreed. Donald wasn't sure. He must have been imagining things. He pushed the strange sound from his mind and focused on his work, but the memory of that unfamiliar silvery whistle remained. The next morning, back at the sheds, Donald was quick to tell the others. "I'm tellin' ye, it was a whistle, a wee thin sound like a spirit," Donald insisted, eyeing the misty air outside. Douglas, getting his buffers polished by his driver, scoffed good-naturedly. Ach, Donald, ye tiresomeness is contagious. Ye were tired, brother. Ye were runnin' late. Ye probably just imagined the noise, or maybe it was a strange bird. There are nae ghosts on Sodor, only foolish diesels. The other engines chuckled, dismissing Donald's tale. The second night. That night it was Douglas's turn to take the evening goods. He remembered Donald's story and decided to stay alert, half expecting some silly trucks. He was deep in the dark, open country near the woods when the mist grew thickest. Chuff, 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 clank, clank, clank. Then it happened. High above the noise of his engine, the same ethereal whistle, a tiny silvery echo, floated out of the darkness. It was undeniably real, and closer than Donald had described. Douglas felt a sudden chill, a sense of something ancient and mysterious passing just out of sight. He sped up, anxious to reach the next station, his skepticism replaced by genuine wonder. He knew now Donald hadn't been imagining things at all. Something magical and unknown was moving on Sodor's rails. The whisper, the warning, and the crash. The morning of truth. The next morning, the engines gathered at the sheds. Douglas looked utterly serious, and the other engines noticed immediately. Well, Douglas, Gordon scoffed, did your tiresome brother's ghost visit you last night? Douglas glared, then took a deep breath, a deep, steadying breath. I was wrong, Gordon, and Donald was right. It was nigh a bird, and it was nigh the wind. There is a whistle on this railway, a strange, sweet sound I've never heard before. It feels ancient. It feels like a warning. The engines fell silent. Even James looked unsettled. If the skeptical Douglas believed it, something truly unusual was happening on Sodor. Donald merely looked at his brother, a knowing respect passing between them. The shared journey. That early evening, the workload was heavy and the twins were sent out together. Donald took a long train of mixed goods, and Douglas followed closely behind with a train of heavy covered wagons, using the same stretch of track they had run the previous nights. The fog was thick and soup-like, much worse than before. Chuff, chuff, chuff. As they passed the shadowy woods, they both heard it. Clear as a bell, despite the distance, the tiny, beautiful, silvery whistle, the magic whisper. Hear that, Douglas? Donald called out, slightly awed. Aye, Donald, it's real. What in the name o' the fat controller is it? Doug, what in the name o' the fat controller is it? Douglas shouted back. They were both so focused on the eerie, echoing sound that they failed to notice their goods trains becoming restless. The trouble that finds you. Donald was hauling a long line of troublesome trucks, and as soon as they felt the train slow slightly in the heavy fog, they decided to play their nasty game. On, faster, faster, they chanted, surging forward violently. Donald's mistake. The surge of the trucks through the dense fog caused Donald's driver to misread the next yellow cautionary signal entirely. Believing they had already passed it, Donald's driver eased off the brakes, trying to regain control. 2. The trucks' betrayal. At that precise moment, the trucks began to push and bang, causing Donald's front wheels to slip on the wet rails, costing him precious momentum. 3. The collision. Douglas, coming up behind, had slowed for the bend, but was now rushing into the swirling fog. He was still distracted by the the mystery whistle when he saw the red tail lights of Donald's stalled train loom out of the mist directly ahead. He whistled a warning, but the momentum was too great. There was a terrific screech of metal and a sound like thunder as the two trains collided. Wagons buckled, couplings snapped, and the sound of crushing wood filled the night. Oops. The strange silvery whistle was instantly silent, replaced by the dreadful sound of wreckage. The mystery had been replaced by disaster, ensuring that Donald and Douglas would be absent for the magical events to come. This provides a... And I think that's it. And sorry, I kinda... if I reread some of this, but I hope you guys enjoyed this very long video, and I hope you could make adaptations of this whole explaining missing characters in Magic Railroad thing of the prologue and the epilogue. So thank you guys for watching this videos, and please like, please subscribe, please comment, and bye.